Welcome to Destination Detour, the podcast that gets lost on purpose. I'm JM Romig.
Dean Hayes.
Today we're getting sidetracked.
Oh yeah.
Alright, so you said you had something for me?
Yes, alright. So, I play a little game. I have a set of 8 stories for you. I'm going to give you a brief explanation of each of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
4 of these stories are satirical. The other 4 are real. After each story, I'm going to ask you which ones you think are real or not. And at the end of the thing, I'll tell you which ones are real.
Sounds good.
Alright. The first one up. Google Maps. Google is now employing camels to map the desert for Street View.
I'm gonna go with satirical.
Why?
I don't know, it just sounds like it sounds like an April Fool's joke that Google would play.
The idea is that these machine, they basically look like a type of tower type thing. Towering. These camels are being walked around in desert settings and such for street views. So you say that's satirical.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Haunted house. There's a family in Tennessee that has a haunted house. They've had it for several years now. For the past 3 years, it's gotten so popular that the local police will set up, little tiny barricade things just for pedestrian traffic and the cars and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And they sell tickets to these houses, to the house, and it goes on for I think it's 4 weeks out of the month that people can come to the haunted house. And they converted an entire house into this, and
Okay.
they have smog machines, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Now, the first thing they noticed that something was awry is that the ticket information was off, but they didn't really think anything of it. About 2 weeks after that, a kid goes running from the house, screaming. And in the report, they're like, well, that's great. That's what we want. We want to scare people. Well, then a mother and her 2 kids were going through the second floor of the house, and the daughter was scared of one of the props. And the mother was telling her, it's all right. So the kid tripped or what have you, stumbled into the prop. The prop went to fall, and they grabbed the arm, and the arm came off with goo and blood, which spattered all over the small child. They all started screaming. The kids puked. It turns out that this guy had gone into the house and died, and nobody bothered or anything. They thought it was part of the prop. They it stank in there, but we just thought that was part of the atmosphere. The cops did a coroner's report and all that stuff, and it turns out that the guy he was 72 years old. He made it to the second floor and rested against a wall and passed away. I don't know if it was a heart attack or some other condition or anything, but there's no foul play. The house was closed down for the rest of the thing, but they do plan on reopening it next year.
That sounds true. I believe it.
That's kind of fucked up. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, that would be really fucked up. Oh, man. That would be a shitty way to go, on his end. And also, to walk in and, just, be there he's there for weeks and nobody even thinks about it. Nobody even notices.
Well, our next story. A particular senator, I forget from where, but apparently he has this, how every politician tries to get their own nick?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one is taking a stand against sex offenders.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying how sex offenders, they have to register, but there's so many of them, and that often doesn't help. They slip through the cracks. that one of the general treatments for them is chemical castration and so forth. Like those are what's part of like court-ordered cases is chemical castration and such. But if
Yeah.
they stop taking the medication and what have you, then they'll just go back to offending. He says everyone that's a registered sex offender are on a list. And he says the only way to keep repeat offenses from happening is that every registered sex offender should be castrated.
Okay.
Aside from the fact that this would include almost every politician in the world, because prostitution qualifies as to become a registered sex offender. True or false?
I believe somebody would say that shit. So I'm gonna say true.
Alrighty. Next story. A man in Europe was arrested and charges were filed against him because of something that's called the Extreme Pornography Act. Lawsuits were brought against him for bestiality porn. And he was charged. It was a long fucking case and all that. And eventually they dropped the charges because they finally realized that the tiger was a man in a tiger suit. And they realized that this was a fake tiger because somebody watching it again or reviewing it realized that the tiger said, "It's great," like the Tony Tiger thing. And that's what tipped him off that it was somebody in a tiger suit.
I'm gonna go.
They dropped. Oh, that's not finished. They dropped that, but he was still up on charges for another thing of somebody cutting the dick open. A short clip. Later, about 9 weeks after that, they dropped those cases because they realized that it was someone playing around with like a sausage and ketchup. The guy said that both videos were things sent to him by his friends, but that he was suing he was fighting against the Extreme Pornography Act because he had to move because he had a heart attack from the stress that was happening. People kept showing up at his house, giving him death threats. One time, 2 girls showed up at his house and were calling him a bunch of names and all kinds of other shit. And that his life was just made horrible because of, what happened involved in this case.
I'm gonna guess that's satirical.
Okay. And what is your reasoning on that?
Cause it's who can watch a video of a man in a tiger suit and go, yeah, that's a real tiger. I can almost buy it's a hot dog and ketchup kind of thing being a dick, almost, but nobody falls for a fucking tiger in a suited guy thinking he's a real tiger.
Let alone a whole police force and then attorneys and
exactly.
So on and so forth. Alright. The next one. A man's house is broken into. They find the guy who did this. Turns out that someone from a Halloween party, presumably, they dressed up as a Teletubby, broke into a dude's house, emptied his fridge into a big bag, and then left. Like they broke his door open, broke into his house, robbed his fridge, and left. They didn't do anything else, just emptied his fridge into a big bag and left.
I believe it. Weirdos out there.
So you think that one's real?
Yeah.
Alright. Next story. Michael Bay is getting sued.
For what?
2 parents of an autistic child are suing Michael Bay for the emotional distress caused to the child. Apparently they went out and rented a thing, Transformers, and they watched it, and they ended up leaving it in the Blu-ray player, and the kid saw the box, the red box, and, there was a movie in the machine, so they watched it. Now, because of his condition, he's incapable of telling like reality from fiction. Like, you know what I mean? He has
Mm-hmm.
trouble distinguishing between the two. And they said that they've gone through great lengths to keep him from any type of fantasy, sci-fi, anything fantastical. But they fucked up. They left the DVD, and then he saw Transformers, and because of that, he refuses to get into the minivan because he's afraid that it's going to transform while he's in it. And he says whenever they've tried to take him into the car, he screams, he throws fits, he uses profanity. It makes an episode for the neighbors, and they're embarrassed. And he said Michael Bay is at fault for this. It's his fault for making things that can adversely affect autistic children. He's got more money than God, and he deserves to pay for what he's responsible for.
I believe that people would do that. However, I've already said 3 are real.
Yes, but bear in mind that you don't just pick the ones you think are real and then, say the rest are false just to keep balance.
I know, but you said 4 are real and 4 are fake, right?
Yes, but pick which ones you think are real and which ones you.
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm just thinking. I think this is possible, but I don't know if it's if it's a satire about people like this, or if it's like a real story. You know?
Well, definitely the fault's with the parents.
Oh
They're the
yeah,
ones
yeah,
who
yeah.
fucked up and left the thing in the machine.
Exactly. I'm not questioning about the fault. I think that
Mm.
I just think dumbass parents would do that. Would sue Michael Bay for that. Although it does seem outlandish. I'm gonna go with satirical. I want to
You
say
go
like
with
this would be
satirical?
some. That sounds like something that would be on The Onion.
You realize now how that if this story turns out to be true, and you're saying that it's satirical, what you are saying is somewhat offensive towards autistic children.
No, what I'm saying is somewhat offensive toward parents of autistic children, and specifically those parents of that autistic child. I'm saying nothing about autistic children. I believe the kid probably has that problem, and I don't believe is what I think might be going on though is that could be a satire on The Onion about like parents like that
All right.
and the sue happy craziness of the country. So I'm gonna go with number 6 is satirical.
All right. Number 7,
Mm-hmm.
Trojan
No,
condom.
Trojan condom. What?
They have created a new line specifically targeting younger people. They acknowledge that people are having sex at younger and younger ages. So for safety purposes and anti-pregnancy, good health, they've marketed a new form of condom that is a little bit smaller. The different design for the target audience and commercials and so forth. To fit on the younger people. The condom itself is directly targeted at people between the ages of 8 and 13.
I'm gonna say satirical.
Possibly 8 and 12, but I want to say 8 and 13.
I'm gonna say
Satirical? Why?
because it kind of waxes a little bit like like a satire, like yeah. I just got that vibe. It doesn't sound like something Trojan would ever do publicly.
So you think that it's a fake story?
Yeah, I think it's satirical.
Alrighty.
All right. Yep.
And then the last story. The Dick Collector.
The dick collector.
Man is arrested, and in his home, he has something over 30 or 40 dicks preserved in jars of fluid.
Ugh.
Turns out what he's doing is that he worked as a mortician or a nurse, I forget which, but he worked at a hospital where he had access to corpses. and he would cut off the dicks of any corpse he was able to get his hands on, preserve the dick, and keep it as part of his collection. And these were like these were openly and proudly displayed at his house once they got in. And if he had not been caught, then his collection would be much larger now. And he would have had, he would have had hard edges pressed against him, to be sure.
Wow.
The Dick Collector.
I think someone's psycho enough to do that. I'm gonna say the Dick Collector's real.
The Dick Collector's real.
Yeah, I'm keeping it all on a. I'm keeping track of all the ones I said. That's 8, right?
Yep.
All right.
All right. So.
All right. So let me hear this. Let me see which ones I got right or wrong.
The Google Camel you said was false.
Uh-huh.
That is a real story.
All right. So that's real.
There's a camel out there busting his hump for Google.
Okay.
The second story was the haunted house. That was false.
All right.
You said it was real.
All right.
You believed that an old man had died, but someone nobody knows. Now, to be fair, that is probably something that has happened before, and will happen again.
Yeah, it sounded convincing.
Yes. Next, story number 3 is the senator castration bill. Now, this is definitely something that a senator would do, like, a stupid politician in general will do stupid shit like this. Like, the people who were outlawing being homeless, making that a punishable offense. Yeah. But in this case, this is false. Okay. You said that it was true, though.
Yeah, alright. So far, I'm batting 0 for 0.
Next is bestiality. This was a true story. The guy was arrested, and they believe that this was a real tiger, not a guy in the suit.
Are you fucking kidding me with that shit?
They prosecuted him for months because they believe this was a real tiger.
No way. That's fucking dumbass cop. What?
Not just cops. Judges, attorneys.
What had happened had to be that only one guy actually saw the video and was convinced, and then told everyone else, because there's no way that many people saw the video.
No, because this is evidence. Bare minimum, at least one cop had to see it in the first place. And you know that any cop isn't going to be like, yeah, I got this video, it's bad shit. The other cops would have been like, oh, fuck, let me see. Oh, shit, yeah, that's bad shit. They would have passed it around. Then the attorneys have to see it as part of the proceedings.
There's no way everybody thought that was a real tiger. What? What the fuck? No.
Everybody thought it was a real tiger, and it took months for them to figure out that this tiger was quoting a name brand cereal.
Are you fucking kidding me with that shit? No way. Wow.
That's real shit. And this is also why people are trying so hard to get rid of the Extreme Pornography Act. Because by definition of the law, it just says that any pornographic material that is deemed offensive or disgusting means that you are punishable. Meaning that pretty much any porn is offensive and disgusting, because all a person has to do is say that this offends me and I am disgusted.
Alright, so far I've gotten none right. Alright. Number 5.
Now, after this point, this is when you realize that you pulled out on a few, and you're like, okay, I need to start answering positive because I'm saying that some shit's not real. Or shortly after this. Number 5 is the Teletubby robbery. This really happened.
Alright, got that right.
Yes, you're now a complete loser.
1 for Josh.
The guy was apparently a friend of the person who lived in the house, And I don't know if he was stoned or drunk or just really hungry, but he busted open the thing and went in and robbed the guy's fridge. And the guy later did not press charges. Interestingly enough, in 2007, maybe 2009, there was another robbery that took place with someone dressed up as the Purple Teletubby. They pulled out of that little bag that the Teletubby pulls around. They had a gun. They pulled it out. They robbed somebody at gunpoint, took all their cash in their little baggie, and took off.
Huh. Teletubbies be robbing shit.
Yep. Next. Michael Bay, Transformers, and Autism. This is a fake story.
Awesome.
Awesome. Yes. You just sound like a horrible person.
No, I mean, like, it would suck if that happened.
Don't get me wrong.
Plus, I got it right.
Michael Bay should be punished just for the movies he makes.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this story was bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Trojan.
Mm-hmm.
This story was real.
No way. No fucking way.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, good. I was gonna say, that's complete bullshit. I was like, I'm not believing you for shit at that.
It would not surprise me, though, to learn that Trojan, become an enterprise, would step into that field, or that any condom company would. Because actually, it would make perfect sense,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by the age of 11, you already have schoolyard hookers, basically.
See, the problem with
it's taken place.
The problem with them acknowledging that and advertising to that is that we don't.
It's not optimistic.
No.
It makes people feel bad.
No. It's that the world doesn't want to acknowledge that. People don't want to acknowledge that kids are fucking at younger ages. Like, in this country, we don't think of people as sexual beings until they're 18. Which is good, because you really shouldn't. Like, unless you are that age, you really shouldn't be thinking about fucking anyone that age.
I don't know. When I was 12 and 13, I was thinking about people who were in the late 20s, early 30s.
It's a little different. But you really, yeah, if they did fuck you, that would have been illegal.
It's not really different other than in the reverse. But, this is a social order, so.
I'm not going to talk about pedophiles with you again, Dean.
Yes, yes, we don't want to make you lose that argument. Moving on.
What the fuck? All right.
Speaking of which, the dick collector.
So, yeah, the dick collector.
Yep, speaking of your arguments, the dick collector. This was a real story.
Awesome. I mean, not
this
awesome,
guy...
but awesome because I was like...
Yes, awesome. I want to see this collection. Maybe it'll be on eBay.
No. What?
But yeah, I mean, my first thought upon discovering the story was, like, what do you do? I mean, is this, like, could you consider this kidnapping almost? I mean, do you go back and tell the families of these people? Do you identify the DNA from the nuts and go back and be like, hey, I'm sorry, but your uncle, your dad, your son, your brother, your cousin, off. Would you like it back? Do you want us to burn this down and add it to the ashes so that he's complete?
What the fuck?
I mean, of course they have to keep it in evidence for so long.
Yeah, but what do you do with all the dicks?
So there's a police station out there somewhere that, if not now, then has housed dozens of dicks. Like, dozens of dicks down in there.
Oh. Shit. I'm batting 50-50. I got 4 of them right and 4 of them wrong.
Now, here's a question. What if they had a really perverted clerk in the evidence chamber who is down there whacking it to these dicks?
What the fuck?
Like, ooh, yeah, look at this. This is the hardest evidence we've had in here.
What?
Like, do you trust that person as your evidence clerk? Like, we have found we cannot press charges because we have found a foreign DNA that is yet to be identified on these jaws. Of course, that never comes out because of the blue wall, or the blue shield, whatever they call that, the bond between cops. Like, yeah, I was spanking it, but I'm just going to take some administrative leave with pay, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing's going to be brought about.
Yeah, I don't you hate that how like cops get vacation for being in trouble for shit? I wish my job was like that. Like I just like, oh yeah, I accidentally kill somebody. Just take a vacation, come back.
I accidentally killed somebody with 3 shots to the back of the head.
Exactly.
My bad. My bad. I tripped and my gun fell in his mouth.
Yeah, right.
Kind of like the argument. I tripped and my dick fell in a.
I'm Josh Romig.
Dean Hayes. Getting back on track.